Cheeseheads. Get on your feet. It's Curd and Long. Hosted by Sparky, Fifer, and Ryan Horvat.
Welcome in another edition of Curd and Long. See Sparky Fifer along with our guy Ryan Horvat. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Horvat. Also check him out weeknights. BetMGM tonight, part of the BetQL Radio Network. Him, Nick Ashu, and Trista Crick. You can check me out over there at 1250amthefan.com. Have interviews I do throughout the course of the week. If you're a big Packer fan, if you follow Best Packers Coverage podcast on Spotify or some of these other places, you can find those interviews. If you like, subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff. They'll pop up into that podcast, or Best Bucks Coverage or Best Brewers Coverage, whatever the case may be. Follow any of those if you don't want to go to the actual website itself, 1250amthefan.com. You can follow whatever interviews, team interviews that you want to follow that way as well. Packers lose to the San Francisco 49ers. I labeled it on the screen here on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page. Packers blow chances and lost to the 49ers. That's really what it was. I mean, you could say the better team won because they were the one seed, the more talented team, all of that. But as far as what happened in that game, the Packers outplayed them most of that game until the very end. And that's when they kind of fell apart, I guess you could say, between the missed field goal. Jordan Love had more than enough time to not have to throw that dumb pass Favre-like across his body. But for the most part, for at least 3.5 quarters or so, they had outplayed the Niners and gave the Niners, I think, far more than the Niners expected in that game, Ryan.
Yeah, they were pretty big underdogs going into the game. It closed at 10, which usually means you're projected to get your ass kicked. And I know San Francisco wasn't at full strength on the offensive side of the ball. Like, man, when they don't have Debo fully healthy, Brandon Ayuk fully healthy, Trent Williams fully healthy, and George Kittle fully healthy, Brock Purdy really goes back to being Brock Purdy that I lost a ton of money on when he was at Iowa State, even with Breece Hall and Matt Campbell, who I really like, the head coach there. I just this is what I mean about system quarterback, right? Like Brock Purdy has talent. I'm not saying he doesn't, but at the end of the day, most of these guys are system quarterbacks. Look what Jared Goff's doing right now in Detroit with Ben Johnson calling plays, that run game, Sam Laporta and all those weapons. And, that's the one good thing that you could say about Jordan Love this season is he doesn't have a ton of weapons. Sure, we're pretty high on some of these guys now, but who knew who the hell Bo Melton was? He was on the practice squad the majority of the season. Wicks, Dobbs, Christian Watson barely gave you anything this season. And that was the guy that everybody thought was going to be wide receiver number one. So the loss sucks, but at the end of the day, you weren't really supposed to be there. You were playing with house money. You were on the road. And, Jordan Love wasn't very good the second half of that game. He was also going against a pretty good defense, made the Favre-like decision to end the game. I'm cool with that, right? Rodgers' first year, they didn't go to the playoffs his first year as starting quarterback. The second year they did go to the playoffs. They scored a bunch of points, but lost the game to the Arizona Cardinals.
And he had a turnover at the end of that game.
Yeah, so this season was all about evaluating Jordan Love. I think we realize he's the guy. He could be the guy at least. I think I hear a lot of people ripping LaFleur. I don't know why that question was even asked to LaFleur at the end of the season presser that happened today. What do you think about giving up play calling? Because I think that that's his best attribute. I think that's what he brings to the table. I think he's one of, if not the best play caller, maybe in the National Football League, right? Kyle Shanahan is awesome. He's a great play caller, but in-game decision maker, he poops the bed sometimes. I think that he's kind of a coward. What the hell was he doing at the end of the first half against Green Bay, against Joe Barry's defense, right? I don't know. Does he not fully trust Brock Purdy, or does he just,
Did you have fully trusted Brock Purdy?
This is a family podcast. I would say.
But Ryan, if you watched Purdy play in the first half, did you trust Purdy to make the throws at the end of the first half? He looked awful. He didn't look good. Man,
why wasn't he using his timeouts? I don't care who your quarterback is. Then go to Sam Darnold. Because Sam Darnold can make those throws. I know you guys people don't want to hear that, but he can. I think LaFleur's a very good play caller. I think he is a good head coach. I would fire Joe Barry. I would move on from Joe Barry, even though the defense showed well against San Francisco. They also weren't at full strength. And also they hadn't played football in 2-3 weeks, whatever it was. So there was some rust there. But at the end of the day, man, you lost the game. So move on from Joe Barry. There's plenty of guys out there right now. I don't know that Mike Vrabel would want to be a defensive coordinator, but there's just so many guys out there right now. You know what I mean? Like Brian Flores went to Minnesota and they went from being the 32nd pass defense to a top 10 defense in one season, and they didn't really change personnel. Either, again, this goes back to Goot didn't do a very good job drafting and evaluating these guys on the defensive side of the ball, or Joe Barry was the issue. And, defense played better down the stretch. But it's like the same story every year. And now that you know that Jordan Love's the guy, I think the goal next season should be Super Bowl, as crazy as that sounds, right? Because you won a playoff game, man. You went into Dallas. You were the only team to beat them. And you have a bunch of dudes. And Jordan Love's playing like a top 5, top 10 quarterback right now. So, I think the goal should be win next season. And you don't have to spend a bunch of money. You could do it with these young guys, but I think you got to bring the right dudes in.
And you get another draft class to add to this. So a couple things here. Last week when we talked about this game, nobody was telling me when we were talking about how great the Niners were, well, they're not really all at full strength, so that could be a problem for the Niners. Nobody brought that up. Now, nobody knew Deebo Samuel was going to get hurt fine, but the rest of these guys all played. I saw nobody saying anything about this. Nobody last week was telling me, well, they may lose the game because they had that bye week and that really could screw them up. That may be why they lose. I didn't hear any of that from anybody. I heard Joe Shasky from the game telling me how they were going to absolutely get hammered. Everybody across the media outside of Strahan, who I don't believe thought the Packers were going to win that game, simply did it because they were wrong on every other week. So if they all would have went with the Niners again, would that have thrown everything off and the Packers would have won? That whole athlete jinx thing, not jinx thing, I have no idea. So I don't really fully buy that he thought the Packers were going to win. He did it just to have somebody different than the rest of them who all picked the Niners. I didn't hear any of these reasons or excuses prior to this game. Now the game happens, the game plays, the Packers are in it, they outplay them for a majority of the game, and now we come back with, well, there's this, well, there's that, well, there's this. Instead of just saying, yeah, maybe they're just not as good as we thought they were. Maybe they're not that undefeatable type team that we all thought. Maybe they are a team that lost 5 freaking games during the season, and they are a beatable team. Now, those people that were running their mouth against the Ravens, I think you can continue to run your mouth about how good the Ravens are. I don't see anything to make me change my mind on what I saw about the Ravens. Their defense is dominating. Their offense is good enough at this point. Lamar Jackson played well in the playoffs, which I questioned going into this game. So that one, I think you're good. I think Baltimore is good. San Francisco, I'm sorry, man. They're beatable as beatable can be right now. And I think the Lions can beat them. And now we know the forecast for San Francisco is sunny and clear or whatever. Clear skies, like 68 degrees or something. So weather is not going to be a factor for the Lions and Niners game. But I don't see this Niners team as some unbeatable team. You brought up Shanahan. I agree. Shanahan quit running the football with McCaffrey for long stretches of time, especially in the second half. Just quit. And I'm watching this. I'm like, what is he doing? Why isn't he running the ball? It wasn't like the Packers had McCaffrey on lock and he couldn't get more than a yard or two. Every time he touched the ball, he was getting 4 or 5 yards. And Shanahan just quit running the football. And this is the guy that everybody tells me, oh boy, if he finds a weakness, he's going to hammer and hammer and hammer and hammer. They had a weakness. The Packers couldn't stop McCaffrey running the football, and he went away from it, Ryan. And this is the great Kyle Shanahan, who goes to conference championship games and doesn't win Super Bowls. I mean, come on. Personally, I think that whole thing, all of them are overrated. From top to bottom, the whole thing.
I think he's like a really good offensive mind and a really good play caller. But I think when it comes to like in-game decision making, well, first off, like what I wanted to say is like he has no marbles, he has no stones, and you need to have those. And LaFleur does have those. I thought LaFleur outcoached him. But again, like, dude, going into that game, man, like I told you could have been rich if you just took George Kittle's anytime touchdown and George Kittle's receiving yards. Like if me, guy at home, and everybody guy at home is telling you like, oh man, they can't defend the simple crossing routes. They can't defend the middle of the field. They can't defend the run. And we're doing this every year. There has to be some change, or it doesn't matter. Like you guys could bookmark me and yell at me about Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers. I could be Team Rodgers. You guys could be Jordan Love. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if Dan Marino is the quarterback of this team, Brett Favre is the quarterback of this team, Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love, or Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. If they don't figure out special teams and defense, like at the end of the day, man, Anders Carlson should have never been the kicker. I should be swearing and breaking things right now. I told you that kid should have never been the kicker.
Said that in training camp.
You don't cut Mason Crosby for that idiot. All right? Because like that's the reason you're not playing football. You could have pulled off the upset, right? I mean, Green Bay was the better team. So I agree with you, man. I think San Francisco is going to blow up on Detroit now. I think they're going to get themselves right. I think they were beatable for one night and one night only. Debo goes out, right? They get penalized, I believe, 6 times. They're the veteran team going against the younger team at home.
Brock Purdy cannot handle pressure. Can't handle pressure.
We had the better coach that night, and we had the better quarterback. I know Jordan Love made some Favre-like mistakes at the end. You got to take the underneath stuff. That's the other thing. But at the end of the day, I can't even fault Jordan Love because he's probably looking for the freaking home run ball because he doesn't want to see that idiot Anders Carlson take the field again.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to be mean here, but the kid should have been cut mid-season, man. Once you saw that this team had some fight, you gotta I told you the first thing I said this so many times. Thank God this team sucks and isn't going to be a playoff team, because if they were, this is how the season ends. It's always this or Brandon Bostic, and it's the special teams or it's the defense not defending the tight end position, and this all has to end because we realize this year, if Jordan Love plays within the offense, I don't know if he's Mahomes, I don't know if he's great, but I know that when he plays in that offense. This is why I don't get why people are asking LaFleur about play calling. How many guys were wide open? The Musgrave stuff 2 weeks ago, this week, I don't think right now anybody schemes wide receivers open better than Matt LaFleur. The offense, I don't think there's an offensive line that pass protects better than Green Bay, and that's a makeshift offensive line. They were number 2 in pass block win rate. You know what I mean? They held their own against Dallas, who was the best pass rush in the league. That's why we pulled off the upset. So offensively, I don't think there's anything to worry about. You lock up Jordan Love, you keep LaFleur, you keep Stenavich. Defensively, though, I think you found out this year we got some horses, we got some guys. We need some help in the secondary. We need some for every play Savage got lucky on and made. My God, man, I really mean this. I'm a better tackler than Darnell Savage. I know I haven't played organized football in over a decade. I know for a fact that I at least will throw some effort out there, man. How do you not know at least how to leg tackle? He goes up high, he gets ran over, or he just does the thing where he dives at your legs. He's a safety. He has no business being on that field. Jonathan Owens stinks, but at least he's like a dog out there. At least he wants some contact and wants to be physical, but he can't tackle for crap anyway. And if your safeties can't tackle and your linebackers can't tackle, it doesn't matter how good your pass rush or how good your defensive line is. Let me say one good thing. One dude that could play football, if you go back and you watch the tape, the all 22, Carl Brooks, dude. 5 pressures I counted. He only played 16 pass rush snaps, 5 pressures. That would be a 31% pressure rate. I saw Pro Football Focus had him with a 80+ grade, which I know JJ Watt doesn't care about. I do. That dude came to play. That's everything I've asked for. Carl Brooks, sign me up for guys like that. Dude, he wanted to win that football game. Preston Smith deserved better. His old ass. You know what I mean?
He played well this year.
Rashawn Gary, is this a hot take? Not worth the money. I'll go there. I know you guys, everybody loves him. He's in the locker room hyping up Jordan Love. Dude, 1 sack, a half a sack, the finals 8 weeks of the season. Come on, man. If you're making TJ Watt money, I want to see TJ Watt out there. I feel like this is don't say it, Ryan. Don't say it, Ryan. Don't say it, Ryan. This is like Nick Perry all over again. 13.5 sacks, and then I don't think he combined for 13.5 after getting the deal. I know he's young, and I know they use him different ways. He did have a tackle for a loss, probably
choke slammed. He choke slammed the right tackle at one play.
I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm just saying, holy hell, when you're making that kind of money, I want to notice you on the field. And I had to go back and be like, did he play? Tell me I'm wrong.
No, he's been non-existent for 8 weeks. He's going to get double teamed some and all of that, and I understand all that, but he had one-on-one opportunities to get home and did not do it. Yep. So yeah, I agree with you. He's been disappointing, to say the least. For me, when you watch that game, first of all, my heart was racing a mile a minute. I was so amped for that game, and it just did not get any easier. They take the lead after the first quarter. It's like, all right, we led a quarter. Okay, we're up after 1. They can't say they blew us out for 4. And because I said last week, I just want it close. Because if it's close in the last 3 minutes, and this can go either way, I'm just going to laugh at everybody that said it wasn't going to be a game. And not only was it close, they had the lead at that moment in time in the game as the Niners were trying to figure out how they were going to salvage a victory and get the heck out of Dodge with the win. But either way, overall, very excited by how this season played out, even though that game stunk. as far as how that game ended because they played so well. And you could tell all those guys, especially LaFleur, was kind of like devastated a little bit by how that whole thing ended. I'll take a quick time out, come back on the other side. We'll move on to our second topic of the day here on the Curtin and Long podcast. What has impressed you the most about Jordan Love this season? That's next on Curtin and Long. Download it on your Odyssey app or if you download your favorite podcast app. Check us out on the Odyssey Sports YouTube page. Follow, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Back after this. Hey, it's Sparky Fifer, 1250 AM, The Fan. Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight, part of the BetQL radio network. Check him out at Ryan Horvat on Twitter. You can check me out at Sparky Radio. What impressed you the most about Jordan Love this season now that it is officially completed and done and all wrapped up? What impressed you the most about Jordan Love this season, Ryan Horvat?
Unmute myself there. What impressed me the most about Jordan Love? Let me pull it up. All right. So we got 32 touchdown passes. Geez, second in the league, tied for 10th with only 11 interceptions in his first full year as a starting quarterback. I'd say that for the second half of the season, the confidence that he played with, especially after the way that the season started, right? Like the losses to Denver, the loss to the Raiders, where he was really bad on national TV, like literally threw the ball to one of the worst defenses way too many times. And then he bounced back and then he looked like Patrick Mahomes out there. So I'd say the confidence, protecting the football, playing a clean second half of the season. I know he threw the picks in the playoff game, but he played within the offense. So I think like the second half of the season, I fell back in love with Matt LaFleur, the play caller, and I realized Jordan Love could be the dude if he plays within the offense, because I think he went away from that, like on that final drive, and he's got a lot of Favre in him. We knew that. You know, Mahomes has that in him too, and I think that's something. Dude, remember Mahomes? Oh, Josh Allen is a perfect example. See, I love Josh Allen. I get like what Rami and everybody's take is about Josh Allen. Nick Wright has the same take. He's Favre though, dude. And like he wants to win the game with every throw because he can. He's awesome. But like we like Tom Brady because Tom Brady will take the underneath stuff. He wins games. You know, and that's what I want to see from Jordan Love. Problem is when you have that cannon for an arm, or you can roll left and throw that dart to your right, you think you could do it every time. And that's the other thing. Like, I like that about Jordan Love. But you don't want the season to end like that. That was very Favre-like, not only with his time in Green Bay, but that reminds me of the way that it ends for the Vikings against the Saints as well in the Bounty Gate game. So just take that stuff away, which he did the second half of the season. He played in the Matt LaFleur offense. And also you got to give Matt LaFleur credit because early on in the season, he didn't let Jordan Love play the quarterback position. I think it has to be a happy medium, right? And that's what we got with Rodgers, LaFleur the second year when Rodgers won MVP. Hopefully we get that next year. I mean, these are almost MVP numbers for Love. Clean up the turnovers a little bit. Throw a couple more touchdown passes. It'll help. Like, here's the other thing, man. I don't know if they're bringing Aaron Jones back, if they're going to pay him. Get a running back and give him 20-plus touches. I think we realize, like, I know Aaron Jones isn't the biggest dude, but he doesn't need to be on this pitch count. Get another guy that could do what A.J. Dillon's supposed to do. I don't want to see A.J. Dillon back. No offense, with all due respect, man. Good dude. He could live in Door County and run for mayor. But we need a power back that could actually be the power back, not that, like, falls over when a gust of wind hits him at Lambeau in January. So back to Jordan Love. Loved everything I saw the second half of the season. Didn't play good in the second half, but like can't really knock him. Rodgers threw a terrible turnover pick against Detroit to end the season last year. We'll clean that up next year. Let's get him some weapons. One thing I want to see from Jordan Love, one thing that I think they're playing this week, if they do more of, use his legs, dude.
We talked about that on Friday.
Where was the RPO? Where was the read option stuff? Yep. I had to tweet this out. I think I got like 150 likes on that one within like 2 minutes because use his legs. Rodgers would use his legs, and he's, 26, 25 years old? He's athletic enough. Use those legs a little bit more, LaFleur. Use those legs a little bit more, Jordan Love. You trust your arm, trust your legs a little bit more. But I'm excited to see what he could do next year. Let's get him some more weapons too, man. Go out and, everybody loves to kill me for that T. Higgins thing. Go pay T. Higgins now. Not that I don't love these young kids, but get me like a dude in the red zone that's going to catch 14 touchdown passes. And then, like, Jordan Love may throw 50 touchdowns next year.
I think before the season, we said, I have to go back and look, but I think we both said that if he threw for over like 3,000 yards and had a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, we were going to be good. He threw for over 4,000 yards and had a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I mean, that blew us away as far as what the expectations were in his first year as a starter. The one thing that LaFleur always says, I agree with, is his resiliency. Like he never folded. You never saw frustration. You never saw anger per se in a press conference. Never really saw it on the sidelines at any point during the season. He's just the same dude. Like he's got a slow heartbeat. Is that what they want to call it? Or whatever they call it in big moments where everything just kind of slows down. That's kind of like how he lives his life. He's just kind of chilled. The leadership aspect of him is huge too. Because again, he's closer to these guys' age, right? Where Rodgers obviously wasn't. But Rodgers was with that new crew when he came in and Favre wasn't anymore. And Rodgers was able to relate to him and then they grew together. And now you've got the same thing with Jordan Love. And I see people all over social media going, wow, this Super Bowl window is wide open now. Like it just opened and it's going to be open for a while. And that's exciting because a lot of people that didn't trust the Packers on Jordan Love or whatever else thought this thing was going to be shut for another 10 or 20 years and they never get back. So here you are. You got every opportunity that you want. I think the other thing that I thought was improvements was in the beginning of the season, his ball placement wasn't all that great, right? He'd throw a ball to the guy when he was open, but it would be low. The guy would have to go down and get it, and then the play would be over. And then when he started clicking in that Steelers game, that's when that ball placement got better all of a sudden. Now he's hitting guys in stride. They're catching and they're running. So for the most part, his ball placement got significantly better. I think him moving safeties and doing things with his eyes was a big deal. Him checking to the right plays and being more confident, and LaFleur giving him more of the ability to check to plays versus earlier in the season when he didn't have that same freedom. That also was a difference maker, I think, with this offense too, when you allow him to get into a play that makes more sense for what he's seeing on defense because the head coach trusts him to do what he's supposed to do in those situations. And he had to earn that trust, obviously, throughout the year before he could get to it. And like you said, he has MVP numbers. If they go back, if instead of being 2-5 in those first 7 games, say they're 4-3, 2 of those games go the other way, he's got MVP numbers. There's no question. And they probably win the division. And this is a completely different talking point right now. So I think all of that impressed me with just how composed he was. He always gave the right answers to the questions. On the field, he always seemingly had the right answers in the right situations. Again, the last play, okay, knucklehead. Obviously, we all agree. But other than that whole thing to me was very, very impressive. Take another quick timeout, come back, move on to the third and final topic here on the Kurt and Long segment. What changes are needed before next season with this Green Bay Packers team? Yes, Joe Barry's name is going to come up. Ryan already brought it up, but there are other things as well that we could talk about. Straight ahead here on Kurt and Long on your Odyssey app, wherever you download your favorite podcast at Odyssey Sports YouTube page as well, where you can stream this bad boy or watch old videos like the one with Joe Shasky from the game on Friday. I went back and listened to that again and laughed. So make sure to do all of that. And we'll be back after this. Hey, you see Sparky Fifer, 1250 a.m. The Fan. With my guy Ryan Horvat. BetMGM tonight. He's electric during the nighttime, during the week. He's a whole different Horvat. He's at a whole different level. It's like he's floating in air. He's so on his game at night on BetMGM tonight. It's him. It's Trista Crick. It's Nick Ashu. Horvat is just boom, 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 boom. It's all good stuff. Got to check it out on there on the BetQL Radio Network and stream it on the Odyssey app as well. And you can check me out over at 1250amthefan.com or, of course, Kurt and Long podcast, Green and Growing Bucks podcast a couple times a week. And, of course, Spare Time Bowling podcast that's up and going, given the PBA season now underway for professional bowling. All right, Ryan Horvat, what changes are needed before next season for this Green Bay Packers team? Take your time. Let it go. I'll take a nap because I'm sure you have a list. Go ahead.
No, I really don't, actually. This isn't going to be as long as I initially thought. I was never team fire LaFleur. I like LaFleur. I would bring back everybody on the offensive side of the ball, right? I don't know how much more you could really do with special teams.
You want Runyon back? He was crying at his locker today.
I don't think he's coming. Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. So not really. And it's not really that big of a loss for me. One thing that they're really good at is evaluating offensive line talent. I never really worry, unless somebody's like a complete freaking nightmare and he's going to get somebody killed out there. then I have to start worrying a little bit. But I trust them to make the right decisions. And I'm not the best at evaluating like offensive line talent. I'm not going to lie. So I always trust like the smart offensive line people with that stuff, Offensively, though, I wouldn't make a whole lot of changes. I don't know what really you could do special teams. I would like to see a new kicker brought in, at least for competition.
They said that's going to happen.
When LaFleur's quote is, we just send him out there and I pray, like that.
He was mad about that. He was mad about that in the press conference today. He said, I've done a lot of production meetings over the course of time.
Yeah.
And he goes, I've never had that come back to get me. He goes, when you're joking around and having fun, and then it comes out that way on TV, he said, lesson learned by me going forward. So,
I mean, like Stokes could come back. I don't know how that works out really, like and try to compete for a spot. But like, I'm not going into the season with any hope that he's going to be a part of this team or David Bakhtiari. So I'm looking to trade David Bakhtiari, preferably to the Jets, because you'll be able to rip them off because Rodgers has full say there. And I love the guy and always will. He'll always be my favorite player, but he's went off the deep end. He's in the cuckoo tree right now. So get David Bakhtiari to New York, get a bunch of cool stuff for it. Or, because Goot will, one thing he'll do is find like a receiver in the 7th round. That'll be awesome from Utah State. And then I want new safeties. Need new safeties. I've had enough Savage. I've had enough Owens, even after just 1 year. Let's get a little bit younger probably with some of these pass rushers. You can never have enough pass rushers. I want to be able to rotate pass rushers. Let's bring back Jair. The nonsense about like trading Jair, not bringing back Jair is just nonsense. You bring back Jair. We need another Jair, cocky, arrogant, kind of goofy on the other side. Those are the best players that play that position. See Richard Sherman. You know what I mean? We want, get me Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Let's get the first white cornerback since Jason Sehorn.
No,
hell yeah. Sign me up for that. I don't care. Just get me somebody that can play the position so I never have to see a Kevin King or a Ladarius Gunter covering a top wide receiver ever again. So I want a new corner, 2 new safeties, couple new pass rushers, new coordinator, everything new, faster, younger, meaner on the defensive side of the ball. Offense is just fine. Sign up Jordan Love for another 5 years. Sign up LaFleur for another 5 years. Get my guy Adam Stenovich paid. Man, let's button this thing up though. Because I'm sick of seeing playoff losses the same way every year. Like the Ravens lose in the playoffs too, but they don't lose the same way every year. That's a button up door. Like Packers, we have nothing to complain about. This year's proof. This was supposed to be a rebuild year, and we were 2 games away from a Super Bowl. Let's just button up the stuff so next year when we're in this position, we don't lose because of 2 missed field goals.
Right.
Or we don't lose the game to San Francisco where they don't score an offensive touchdown, but they block a freaking kick and a punt. Let's not lose because, granted, he's an awesome tight end, George Kittle. He kills us for the 3rd year in a row. Like, let's lose a new way. Let's lose like 48-45 in a shootout or something like that. But I don't know. I think Joe Barry's got to go. I got to get some different dudes on special teams. Let's get younger at the pass rushers, younger at safety, and a better corner. And I think that this team's probably winning 11, 12 games. I think regression comes next year for the Lions and they win 7 games. Bears will probably be a little bit better because I'm a believer in Caleb Williams. And then Minnesota will stink. So, like, next year you got to win the division, Spark. So just get me a new coordinator. How about
I like the Shane Waldron hire as coordinator for the Bears. I thought that was really good. He's a McVay guy, was in Seattle, did some stuff with the senior citizen, Geno Smith. So I think that was a good coordinator hire. I'm not sure why anybody goes there when the head coach is on the last year of his deal. Maybe they told him you're the new head coach if this goes wrong. Maybe that was the deal behind Eberflus's back. I don't know. But either way, I thought that was a good hire. And I would assume they move on from Justin Fields too. So for me next year, I think realistically, Joe Barry's back. I don't think they fire him. Do I want Joe Barry back? No, I'd like to see him move on. Now, the guy I wanted, the Jaguars just hired today. The guy that was Nielsen, who was the head coach of the Falcons, the Jaguars hired today here on Monday to be their defensive coordinator. So you already lost one guy. And Ron Rivera is interviewing for a defensive coordinator position I saw earlier today after being the head coach in Washington. I don't know where I'm at on Ron Rivera as a defensive coordinator. I know I wanted Nielsen and I didn't get him. So if they move on from Joe Barry, I don't think it's bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think LaFleur will. Let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. I'm with you, Ryan. Don't touch the offense. Just leave it alone. You could find something to replace A.J. Jones or A.J. Dillon. You have to bring back Aaron Jones. figure it out. You and Aaron Jones figure it out. Get that deal done. Obviously, you have to pay Jordan Love. They're saying somewhere in the area of probably like $43 to $45 million, I'm hearing. So if that's what the number is, fine, pay him. But you don't give him that money next year. You give him the money after next year, right? So if you give him a 4-year deal at that number, but not next year, and you can restructure next year's if you put it all together to lower that cap number as well to help you bring somebody in. As far as on defense, I'll tell you who would have been really nice for this Packers team. Would have been really nice, but they had no cap space. So you can't yell at the Packers, oh, they screwed up. Jesse Bates, man, that dude changed that Falcons defense. Changed it, right? And so to me, if you're going to spend money in free agency, that's where it is. Get a veteran safety can be a game changer like the Falcons did. Then draft a safety and say the second round, you have 2 second-round picks, 1 or 2 safeties, 1 in the second, 1 in the third, whatever. Hopefully one of them work, right? You bring back Keyshawn Nixon. I think that's a no-brainer. You bring him back. And then at cornerback, I agree with you, Stokes. Forget it. You still have Valentine. You still have Alexander. Valentine, I don't care if they bring him back one way or the other necessarily. They have to draft a corner. I'm with you on that too.
Like
first or second round corner. I do not want Cooper, but I want Wiggins, but he's never going to make it to the Packers at 25 now, the cornerback out of Clemson. So Kool-Aid McKinstry, maybe out of Alabama or something like that. I don't know. But get somebody. And I agree with you on the other thing you said. Young, fast, mean. That should be the motto of the offseason for the Green Bay Packers. Young, fast, mean. If they don't check all 3 check boxes, you move on. And I know y'all like the RAS score, the RAS athletic score, right? They get these big 90s numbers and stuff like that, and that's how the Packers used to draft. Fine, cool. So get all those guys together with all the numbers that y'all like, and then go through Ryan's list of, okay, is he fast and is he mean? They're all young. Obviously, it's a draft. So those 2, fast and mean, right? And mean meaning they're hard hitters that know how to tackle somebody. That's what mean means. Mean does not mean to punch the referee. Mean means, hit somebody hard and tackle them and knock them on their butt, especially if you're going to continue to play zone. Because then you need somebody to come up and jar a ball loose or whatever the case may be. So I think Horvat and I are both on the same wavelength from that standpoint. I got one more thing for you.
What?
This is way early, and I understand. Way, way early. How much do you play Jordan Love in preseason?
None.
So you're there. You're there. I'm good. I don't want to see him play Clifford. I'm putting him out there. He doesn't need any more practice in preseason. Let's just roll.
That's the other thing. Trade Clifford.
Trade Clifford? No, you ain't trading Clifford. He's got to have a preseason where he balls. So if Love's going to watch, then let him go ball and do something.
These weirdos could call me a Jordan Love hater. I've been on board all season long. I don't know what podcast they've been listening to, why they keep coming back to me, because I didn't want to back up 4 years ago. These same lunatics were calling for Sean Clifford at one time this season. Yes. I never, ever wanted. Sean Clifford's ass could come in when it's time to take a knee, so Jordan Love doesn't pop something going down.
He came in and they had to pull him out to put Love back 2 weeks ago.
Although Tucker Kraft needed to catch that ball. That would have won me some money. I needed that one. But no, I mean, I was just joking about Clifford. But no, man, I don't need to see any Jordan Love. I like these teams that don't play their dudes in the preseason. No, I have no concerns about Jordan Love. I would love to see him obviously work out with his dudes this offseason.
He already said that. He said they're going to do it more in California than they did last year.
Yeah, no, I don't really need to see a whole lot. I mean, they can play him a little bit if they want to, but I saw enough from Jordan Love to know that he could be the guy as long as he just runs the offense and doesn't go off script and try to be Favre. I just don't think that that's how you win in the NFL unless you're Patrick Mahomes. And even that second year with Mahomes, they were playing a bunch of too high shell, and they had to sit him down and be like, guy, we know you can make the throws, but you also have to take this underneath stuff. Even this year, he had a bunch of turnovers, and Josh Allen had a bunch of turnovers. That's just the way that these guys play the position now. So no concerns there at all. The one thing I want to say really quick about Valentine and those dudes, one thing I like though, is they do have that meanness. If you saw those clips of Amon-Ra St. Brown and EQ, on that thing, I love how they were we told you the Packers were good, and they talk mad stuff, talk crazy. Game. And they're like, who is it? And they're like, Jair wasn't even out there. I like that though, man.
Well, Carrington Valentine talks as much as Jair, if not more, I think.
Yeah, so like I don't want him to be number 2 lockdown corner, but maybe he could be like a nickel corner,
Sure.
or he could at least be a dude on special teams. You know what I mean? But that is kind of what I want. Chirping. Now, like I don't want to hear chirping like when you're giving up 385 passing yards and then the quarterback airmails one and they're doing the sword thing.
Yes.
Like you know what I mean? But like I don't. Those guys, some of those guys, like even Jair, like last year he like shied away from contact. I know most of his hits are like cheap. But those dudes do like to get their licks in. So I'll take some of that. Give me more mean, give me more speed. Because, I don't think this team's far off now. They're not far off. The NFC stinks. Who's going to get much better? Dallas is still bringing back McCarthy. We have the advantage there. Atlanta, if they get Belichick, maybe, but they still need a quarterback. Bears, I still think, like, even if they get Caleb Williams, it's going to take them a year. San Francisco, this might be their last run with this team. They're not going to be able to continue to pay all these guys, man. Rams, Stafford's going to be another year older. Right now, is it crazy to say going into the year, Jordan Love?
Philly's a mess.
Jordan Love's I was bitching early on in the season about how they took Jordan Love over Jalen. Give me Jordan Love over Jalen. You know when Jalen looked good? When Shane Steichen was calling the plays. You know when Jalen didn't look good? When Sirianni's dumbass was calling the plays, and now again when he's calling the plays. Like, there's a whole side of the field and the middle of the field that Jalen doesn't see. Really quick, because I should have said this when you asked me what impressed me most about Jordan Love, is what impressed me the most the second half of the season was early on in the year, the Packers knew they weren't really good on standard downs, so they had to hit you with explosive plays. Second half of the season, once they got the run game going especially, they were a little bit better on standard downs. So Jordan Love didn't have to hunt the deep stuff, and he went through all of his progressions, and he took the intermediate and the middle stuff. Rodgers never threw the ball to the middle of the field. And you could blame a lot of that on never having a tight end. Definitely never had a Tucker Kraft and a Luke Musgrave. But that was what was most impressive, man. Him going through the progressions. A full offseason, and I want to see him working out with C.J. Stroud, too. Because I think those guys can make each other better. And whoever that quarterback coach is, good for him, man.
He's interviewing too. He's interviewing for offensive coordinator jobs. Yep.
I'm jacked to talk about this team now this offseason. And I don't think they need to spend – you don't win in the National Football League spending a bunch in free agency. I know I always called for that when Rodgers was there. That was more just these picks suck. MVS and EQ suck. We have to spend money now or this guy's going to retire without a ring. And that's probably what's going to end up happening. Now you can kind of take your time, hit on every draft pick, and bring in the right guys. You don't want to bring like the Melvin Ingrams of the world or the Khalil Macks of the world. You know what I mean? Just get young guys. Get all the Van Nesses in the world. And if they don't work out, then that's fine. But yeah, that's what I would do. It really sucks. Not only that we got robbed of Aaron Rodgers playing for the Jets, but we didn't get those 60% of the snaps because that would have been a first-round pick.
Huge. Would have been huge.
How
you get 2 twos. I mean, you've got a 1, 2 twos, no Rasul Douglas, so you have 2 threes. You're going to get compensation for the guys you lost last year, so you're probably going to have with 2 4s and at least a 5, if not 2 5s. I have to go back and look. But they are in a position through the first 2 days of the draft to have 5 football players.
Right.
Before they get to day 3, they're going to have 5 football players added to this roster before they even get to the 4th round. Folks, I'm telling you, you may want to bang on Goody, but these last 2 draft classes all have big impacts on this team this year, the last 2. If he has another really good draft class this year, you heard Ryan talking about Super Bowl. Hey, that may not be too far off if he hits on another draft class. If he gets, say, 3 starters out of this draft class that have an impact on this team next year, they might be talking about sitting there at the conference championship game talking about going to a Super Bowl.
You know what my wish list would be, and I'll dive into this a little bit. I want a new defensive coordinator. No offense to Joe Barry. I just don't think Joe Barry's defense works in today's National Football League. I want a guy like Mike McDonald who doesn't game plan, doesn't script for opponent. Does game plan for opponent rather than like Wink Martindale. You know what his old ass is going to do every week, right? Yep. He's going to blitz you. Todd Bowles yesterday. Right? Ben Johnson and the Lions made the right second half adjustments because they know what Todd Bowles is going to do. He's going to blitz you on 80% of your dropbacks. Even Jared Goff's going to figure that out, get rid of the ball quickly. I want a defense like Mike McDonald's running in Baltimore where they're going to throw some man, they're going to throw some zone, they're going to throw some 2 high shell. They're going to throw a little bit of everything, but they're going to be able to get natural pressure with real pass rushers. So my wish list would be like a fiery Robert Saleh type defensive coordinator where, yeah, this guy doesn't have the brains to be a head coach. He's a total meat stick, but like at night he's listening to Tool and firing up firing up his defensive plan, right? That's what I want. A young, fiery dude who wants to be a head coach and he wants to make his bones as a coordinator. And then I want a cover linebacker. I know nobody values the inside linebacker position, but look at San Francisco. Why? And look at what Baltimore is able to do. They're able to run that defense because they have a Patrick Queen and they have a Roquan Smith. With all due respect to Andre Campbell, right? He's not the best cover linebacker.
Nice,
and he can't tackle for crap.
Yep.
So I want a coverage linebacker, right? Inside linebacker, and then I want 2 more pass rushers and another corner. Do not even drive. I don't care about a tackle. Even like Joe Out, man, as good as he is, go back, pop in the tape, the good games, like throw on the tape against Duke. He's on his ass 4 times against Duke. So I'm fine with what we got on our offensive line. Get all pass rushers, corners, and get a cover linebacker and change up this defense, and you could be playing for a Super Bowl next year.
I would love a right tackle or a left tackle, whatever. But I'd like the opportunity to move Zach Tom into guard or center where he could play at all-pro level versus right tackle. And he pass blocked off his tail end out there. But when we start talking about run blocking and stuff like that, I think he's more effective inside. This offense is going to be about running the football still. Yes, Jordan Love is the man, but everything comes off of play action, which means you have to have an effective run game for that to work. So you have to have run blocking offensive linemen first and then pass blocking offensive linemen. That's why I would love a tackle. For 2 reasons. 1, to protect yourself against Rasheed Walker regressing. And 2, to put you in a situation where that guy can start and Tom can slide inside. So if that means he goes into right guard and that right tackle starts, fine. You're better on the right side of the line than you were before because Zach Tom is a huge upgrade over John Runyon. If that right tackle guy is a nasty type dude that can play right tackle. So we'll see how it all goes. He is Ryan Horvat, BetMGM tonight. Make sure to check him out weeknights on the BetQL Radio Network. I am Steve Sparky Fifer. Follow him at Ryan Horvat. Follow me at Sparky Radio, 1250 AM The Fan. Enjoy the rest of your day. Toodles.